right. Welcome everyone to another edition of App Builder Live. I guess this is a kind of a special edition because it is leap year, or the day that only exists once every 4 years. So thank you very much for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be watching or perhaps catching the replay of this. Thank you so much for tuning in. So we are going to talk about as it turns out, App Builder. Shocking, right? I mean, we talk about a bunch of stuff, Adobe Commerce, AEM, certainly all related to App Builder, but today is really focused on App Builder itself. My guests today are part of the App Builder engineering team. So you get to hear directly from the folks building the product that we all use and love, to build integrations, single page applications, all of that great stuff. Before I bring them on, I just wanted to mention a couple of quick things. The next session we do is on March 14th. It's going to be Summit, right? So essentially everything the developers need to know who are going to Summit, and highlighting all the sessions. So Sarah, Russell, and I will basically go over and give you kind of a preview for developers, what you want to pay attention to at Adobe Summit, which is on March 26th this year. So March 26th in Las Vegas. If you are attending, definitely check out. We'll have a session as well on App Builder. I think session 606. Anyways, so enough kind of announcements. Let me bring in Patrick. Hey man, how's it going?
Hey Ron, good. How are you?
Good. And then we've got Jesse. Hey dude.
Hello. Hey.
So Jesse is in the palatial living room area, so that's a very good thing. And then if you saw in the intro, Patrick was in a very white, blank background conference room when we did our rehearsal. So he's stepped it up, obviously. So I like your background there. Very nice.
Thanks. Nothing like getting shamed into walking around the office looking for a good conference room.
Exactly. Figuring out where the best conference rooms are that have something behind you. Anyways, okay. So you guys are, so Patrick, what is it that you do? Remind me.
So engineering manager. I've been with the App Builder team for just over a year now. It's been an exciting transition, and love working with Jesse and the whole team every day. We have a great slew of products here, and we're going to dive into a little bit later on about some of those in particular. But just in the daily grind, right? Talking to customers, talking to engineers, talking to other engineering managers across the org, and finding out how we can make this a better product for people.
Right on. Very cool. Okay. And Jesse, you've been on the show a couple of times, so
Yep.
You should be pretty familiar to folks who have watched, but remind us what you do.
I need no introduction. Yeah, I'm a developer on the App Builder team, so working a lot on the tooling, making that experience as good as possible, and got some pretty exciting stuff to talk about today. Some upcoming stuff all around CLI tooling. So excited.
Right on. So essentially, your job is, and both of yours is really making the developer experience more functional, more delightful for developers and our customers that use it, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I guess let's just kind of dive into it. Let me throw up some slides, and so we're going to go through a little bit of slides, and then Jesse will basically start talking about kind of the new stuff that's coming, give some demos, and go into kind of showing rather than telling, or a little both. Okay. There you go. Take it away, Patrick.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So we recently released version 10.0. This is a breaking change release, and everyone's kind of like, oh, why is it a breaking change? Why do we gotta go change up like this? Really, we ask our customers all the time, like, make sure you're running on a supported version of Node, right? And these long-term support deals with Node are really about 18 months to 2 years in time. We haven't been the best ourselves about following our own advice, right? And so one of the things that we did was require either Node 18 or 20 in the tooling, right? We've had support for a while for both of these, but the tooling itself ran fine under Node 14, and we kind of left it and let it go. But really, if we're asking customers, to be running on long-term supported versions of Node, we should be doing the same ourselves. And so this was a big change. As we talked about earlier, like in the intro, we do run a lot of backend services, right? Things behind the scenes to make sure that deploy runs fine or that build runs and things like that, authentication. It turns out we had about 55 to 60 repos that we had to go through and make this breaking change across. So at the same time, there's the end of year like change freezes. And so this really all came together at the beginning of the year. We said, let's do a nice 10.0 release. So along with that, right, us using 18 and 20, we're committing to really supporting these for customers within 90 days of a release of a new version from Node.js, right? So when 22 comes out in April, that day one starts the 90-day clock for us, right, to go through, not just supported in runtime as a different kind, but to go through our tooling and evaluate, like, what do we need to add to that to have support there? So really, that's one of the bigger changes here. Next is our AIO app deploy command. So previously, every time you were deploying, it was just building and stacking all previous versions together, and we would go look in our CDN and be like, wow, there's a whole bunch of unused stuff here that customers wasn't being cleaned up, right? And so what this means is now only the most recent version of things get deployed, only the changes get deployed, and then anything not in that change is actually getting cleaned up and taken away. So these are building faster, these are deploying much faster, and you're assured that the only thing sitting out there on the server and on the CDN are the things that you expect in your most recent deploy. Internally, we had some repos, right? All of our repos are open source. People are free to go look around and open issues and make contributions. But we did have some lacking test coverage, right? We really strive for 100% test coverage in all of our repos. And so we took the time at the end of the year to really pause for a minute and make sure our test coverage was complete. So it was really nice to have that increase as well. And then kind of last year is the dependency updates, right? We've been along with sitting on the old Node version meant we had outdated versions of ESLint, of Jest, of our documentation dependencies and things like that. So updating these dependencies across the board, again, those same 55 to 60 repos, came with a lot of, as you can imagine, merge conflicts and whatnot, and different dependencies being earmarked in package.json for some things. So we went through and really cleaned that up, and everything is on a more recent version of our hard dependencies there. And lastly, we do get a lot of feedback from the community, and this is awesome. We have the Experience Cloud forums that people use. They engage with Ron or Sarah, talking to product, things like that. But you can, again, engage us directly from the command line, right? If you do an AIO report -B, that'll open a bug report for us in Git that ties directly to Jira, that gets dumped right in my queue. It gets seen right away, and we decide on priority there. And the same with AIO report -F for feature requests, right? We're actually some of the things that Jesse is going to talk about today were the result of either a feature or bug fix request, right? So these things are looked at. They're super important to us, because without community engagement, we're kind of, I won't say we're flying blind, but it really helps in steering our decisions for what's coming next. So happy 10.0 to us. Hopefully, we've got some great features coming up that's going to rapidly change or increment these version numbers here soon, and I'll hand over to Jesse to talk about those.
Yeah, in this case, age is just a number for sure. The 10.0 is really just the marker that we've updated everything according to Semver, and it's not really that exciting as you would think. 10.0 celebration, woo! But really, we've had there's over 600 commits to the app plugin, and really it's the incremental things that are the most exciting. So I'm going to talk about some of what's coming. So a thing that we're very excited about is called the dev command. So this is a way to actually run your app builder locally without all the extra requirements of a full OpenWhisk environment or a runtime environment. So we're just starting up a local node service and actually running your actions locally. So everything is very quick and very easy to debug. This is available right now as a developer preview. You can install it yourself with AIO plugins. Install Adobe /AIO -CLI -plugin -app -dev. And note that there's no @ in front of Adobe. This is actually a link to the repo to install it. So you might need to update it yourself as changes go live into that repo. And then as we approach 1.0, then you won't even need to install it. So it'll just be part of the CLI. And some of the things that we wanted to fix, right? We've had local debugging for a while. And we were doing this by actually running a full environment of runtime OpenWhisk locally on your machine. Unfortunately, there were some problems with this approach. It is a complete simulator, meaning that it is the actual environment that your code will run in when it's deployed to runtime. But this means that there's a lot of requirements on the machine that you're running on. So you need to have Java installed. You need to have Docker running. You need to download a jar file, which is the actual image that's going to run in Docker. But this allowed us to do hot reloading of actions. You could do step through debugging in VS Code with some limitations. Because it was a real environment, you could only debug at a breakpoint for 60 seconds. And then you could still continue to step through your code, but your actual response would be lost because of the way that runtime bootstraps your actions and expects a result, otherwise it will reject. You could see log output from your actions using polling. The biggest thing is that there were real activations. So the environment is actually like exactly the same as what you get when you app deploy. Some of the problems that came up though were Apple Silicon. It was not working on Apple Silicon. There were some issues with WSL as well, Windows subsystem for Linux. So we realized that we needed to do something about this, and we weren't going to be able to fix the Apple Silicon issue without considerable work. So this led us to look at actually emulating as opposed to a full simulation of these actions, so we could run your action code just in Node and not require Java, not require Docker, no extra jar to download. So we were able to still do hot reloading of actions, step through debugging. In this case, we don't have timeouts, and we can step through debug all of your actions. There was a weird thing where if you had multiple actions that you wanted to debug in Whisk debug, you would need to attach to each action. And in the case of app dev, you just attach once and you can step through all your actions. Log output is immediately, the actual activations look very similar to your code, so you don't need to modify your code at all. And it works everywhere Node does. So it's pretty exciting.
Hey, Jesse, go back to that for a
Yes.
second. I just have a quick question.
Yep.
Just for me, not from anybody in the audience, but so faked activations using an emulator for AAO app dev, as opposed to real activations using a simulator. Can you just talk a little bit about what that, like what the difference is there in terms of what that means,
Yeah.
simulator, emulator?
The terminology comes a lot from mobile. When people started making apps for iPhone and Android,
Yep.
there was this concept that we want everything that the device has. So if there's memory limitations, we want that. If the file system works in a certain way that's not the same, we want all of that to be identical for a full simulation. And that worked as a great accompaniment because it was faster than running on the actual hardware, but it was a complete simulation of the environment that your code is going to run in. And this is great if you can do it, but there's a lot of overhead in getting to this level. And another concept arrived, which is just an emulator which mimics the environment, but there's things like memory pressure or device APIs might not actually be real. So this is a less deep simulation. It's a
Yeah. So it gives the developer an idea, though. I mean, the whole point is to give you an idea of what your capacity for traffic or what have you, right? Or what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, I mean, emulators will get you 90% of the way, and it's really only very specific things that you need an actual simulator for. Yeah. Like in device worlds, you wanted to simulate that the user of your app was moving, right? And there was ways in the simulator that you could actually do that, and the GPS would update, and your application would receive those notifications.
Right.
We don't really have that those kind of requirements.
Those use cases don't exist for us.
No. There are some things like the actual interface to runtime is completely real in WisDebug. So you deploy your action to this running Docker image. Yep. You poll it to get logs. So there's activation IDs. You can see a list of all the activations that have happened. Right. So there is a level of realness, but we didn't feel that this was adding a ton of value. The value is actually being able to step through your code, know what's happening. And I think partially the main thing that people wanted is because they're running in serverless, and serverless is new to a lot of people, less so now, but when we started, they wanted to see their code run before they deployed to runtime. Yeah. And this is an initial thing where it's a developer trait that they want to know before they commit.
Right, exactly.
And over time, you learn that it's no big deal to actually just keep pushing your code every time it changes. Yeah. And keep running it, because there's no harm. You can work in your own workspace. Yep. Not worry about bringing anything down. It's just a bit of a different mindset.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I just want to add, right? I think that the value here, like Jesse kind of nailed on, was people want to know where in JavaScript their app's going to break, right? Before shipping it. The orchestration layer of OpenWhisk is not a concern for developers, right? Like the deploy, how it's going to deploy. They just want to know, can I get my logs output? Can I run, more activations than one at a time? And so I think the trade-offs, right, of this being a much smaller deployment, of not having to worry about Java, Docker, OpenWhisk all being installed, and trusting that, okay, if it works on Node on my machine, it'll work on Node in runtime is where we'd really like to get.
Right on. Cool. Okay. I'll let you continue there.
Yep. So before I dive into a demo and show you how it actually works, we've quietly released something that we call quick starts. And the reason I'm going to talk about this now is because with quick starts, it actually becomes really easy for you to try this out. So the concept of quick starts is that we have things that are called app templates, and this is essentially an empty app. It's a starting point. You create it, and then you need to supply what it does. It doesn't do anything out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, let me jump in there. Let me jump in there for a second, Jesse. So, I mean, essentially, everyone's going to start with a template, right? I mean, it's basically kind of app builders methodology is, you kick off a project, and then you go into the CLI and you select a template, right? So, and then what you're talking about here is kind of beyond that. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you want to know how a particular feature works, it's good if you can have some code to reference. And quick starts gives us a way to if I want to demonstrate how to write an action that takes a URL and returns a QR code image, that's an example of something that is a good quick start, because it's something that you can try it out and see how it works, change code, like modify it and modify it to suit your needs before you actually decide to implement it for real in your application. So a quick start is really it's a slice of an application designed to demonstrate a key feature or one particular way of doing something, right? At the other end, the other extreme, we have our ISV apps, which are you're not allowed to modify them. All you do is you supply some configuration, and they get installed for you in your organization. So the quick start is really in the middle of these two, which is empty slate or full slate, right? So you can play before you decide what you want to use. So this is really done with just this repository here. And if anyone wants to contribute their own quick start, we welcome that. Really, it's just this directory within the quick starts repo is what we use to install. So this action sequences I'll demonstrate. And actually, I will jump over. I think I'm done slides, yes. Let me get rid of this. So, okay, here I am in the test dev command. I'll start in the live demo folder. I am empty here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project using a quick start. And part of the reason that this is helpful for the dev command is that we haven't done a template yet, which includes all of the little things that we need to actually debug an application. So this quick start actually does have those pieces. So I can create an app. This is pretty quick, or it was at 8 a.m. this morning. We'll see. I have another version here I can jump to. Okay, we're done. Okay, so I can show you what we've got there. Okay, so this is a very basic application. It's got a couple actions. In here, we've got a hello action that we're actually using twice. So we have hello, which requires Adobe Auth, and then we have hello Frank, which does not require Adobe Auth. And this is a way of using the same action in two different contexts. So if I just go app dev, we're actually running now, and here's my app actions. And if I call hello Frank, it returns, a brief message. You can see that the debug output was immediate, right? And if I call hello, which requires auth, you can see I get an error. And if I go back to run this in experience.adobe.com, in this case, I am authenticated now, and this is exactly the same code. If I run hello here, and you could see now it says Walter. I couldn't think of a better name, but I can also, if I could type. So this is an authenticated call. It's not really authenticating. We're just actually testing for the presence of the header. So that's emulation, not simulation, right? But this allows us to actually verify that our application works. And if I jump over to code again, you can see there's this other directory called fellowship. And this is an example from the OpenWhisk community. So this is demonstrating a sequence, really. So the fellowship membership has a series of actions that it runs, and runs member join, member process, and member equip. And if I jump in here, I can see member join, it logs, it creates a member object, and then it returns that member, and it populates some basic information. And then this is passed on to member process, which does some additional work or simulates work. So it looks up a place in the region map, and it will assign you to a region. And then member equip will look at your role, and it will decide what to equip you with. So if I run fellow membership, you can see let me just clear. I've actually stepped through all of these actions in that sequence. And if
that is, sorry to jump in, but that's fantastic, because sequences are a super powerful way to string runtime actions together, and to be able to test them like this, I think is very cool.
Yep, absolutely. There's some things that we want to get to that aren't there yet. The biggest one is probably events. So making sure that you can trigger events and actually test your code that responds to that event. But if I say that I'm Frodo here from Hobbiton and a gentleman, and I invoke, you can see that it has assigned my region, and it has given me the ring, one ring to rule them all.
Excellent.
I knew you'd like that, Ron.
Yeah, no, this is great.
So if I want to actually step through, I actually need to start it from here, but I can actually debug this directly in VS Code just by selecting this. This runs exactly the same code. The AIO app dev command is run right here. And if I switch to here and run the same thing again, did I set a breakpoint? Looks like I didn't. And now I'm at the breakpoint. I got to be careful of my my certificate isn't showing my login token. So you can see what the actual params are, and you can do all the things that you would expect to. You can step over, right? Create a new member based on the input, and then if I look at the join and I set a breakpoint here and continue. That's interesting. Okay, let's see if I get step through to each breakpoint now. Yeah, so there's the next one, member process, member equip. So the output from the last action in the sequence is passed through. So this means that you can do all the things that you expect here, right? So I can watch variables, I can change variables. Yeah, so it's a full debugger.
Right, very cool.
Yeah, so right now we're in the process of making sure that everything works the way you'd expect. So I've actually got another project here that I'll show you. This one is my test dev command. So here I've got actions for everything that I want to make sure will work, right? So this is a very basic call to the analytics, and my token is off screen, so you can't see it. But if I run this, it's got some of the same actions, but so in this case, I can call analytics, and assuming my token is still valid, yeah. So I've made a call to analytics, and similarly, we have a call to target. So these are some of the APIs that we support in runtime inside your action. So we want to make sure that everything still works, even though we're running on localhost. And the next big one is going to be getting files to work locally, but that's part of a bigger push. So we have some work to do to make that happen. Currently, okay, it doesn't work in Wisp debug either. So this would be a new feature.
So I just for me, so when you say it's emulating the calls to target and the calls to analytics, so it's not actually making the call. It's
no, we're making those calls.
Okay.
This is just, I wanted to make sure that these things still work as expected. So this would work in Wisp debug, and it also works on localhost as long as you have set it up with the proper credentials. Right.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's hitting the API.
So these values,
yeah,
these values are legit. They're real. So then we can actually call the SDK.
Very cool. I like it.
So that's the extent of the demo.
Yeah, I was going to call out, Jesse, right? Some of the key takeaways from this, you get it with AIO, right? When we do our 1.0 release, it's going to be installed with the CLI. There's going to be no other dependencies to go download, right? There's you don't have to have Docker running. I'm sure everyone noticed this starts extremely quickly, right? It's basically instantaneously up and running, and the log output is also extremely fast as well. So these are key features that have been kind of called out before, like, hey, why do I have to have Docker running? All I'm trying to do is run a node action. And it's like, okay, well, we can get rid of that. It also got rid of some of the complexities around supporting multiple architectures, whether it's Apple Silicon or whatnot. And lastly, we want to have that feature parity, but we also want to go beyond what Whisk debug can do today, as Jesse was mentioning, adding things that don't work. So thanks for that great demo, Jesse.
Yeah, very cool.
It's exciting.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that people can do this today, right? That it's in dev. You can add this plugin to your CLI manually. When it does get released, if you've added it manually, will it just update, or
you will actually need to uninstall the pre-release version, because there's a thing where if you've installed a user plugin, it ignores the global install. So
okay, gotcha. Oh, right. Yeah,
we
that
can't
makes sense
automate that.
because if you've installed something, yourself from someplace, you want to make sure that maintains intact if you've done any modifications or what have you.
Yeah, it assumes that was your intent because it's installed.
Okay, very good. So the quick start stuff, remind me again. So that's something that's coming. That's on
quick
the horizon.
starts have been quietly released for a while. We haven't talked a lot about it, but it's actually a way that we use to make sure things work quickly.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, this is sort of the first time that I think we've talked about it outside our group.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's not a ton of quick starts there yet, but I'd love to see more. Just see if I can find the right window.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think it would be great, certainly for new people to the platform, new people to app developer, or to app builder, to be able to run a quick start and then step through the code and go, oh, that's what it does, which you can, the getting started guide today, in the documentation, walks you through creating kind of your first hello world application. So you kind of get your feet wet. But for one of the folks watching, Omar had asked, if there's any web examples of using Adobe Sign or Adobe document generation. It's not, we haven't done that. We've been focused more on Experience Cloud, AEM, Commerce, etc. But there is PDF stuff I haven't been able to find. But I know we've done stuff with the PDF generation capabilities that developers have access to. So there's probably examples, but it'd be great to get more quick starts where we can just, here's an example implementation, rather than having to go today to GitHub and then cloning a repo and kind of going through that process.
Yeah, that's sort of the goal. I actually shared my screen if you want to.
Oh, hey, sorry. I am not paying attention. Bad host.
That's okay. So this is the, why did it switch? Okay. This quick starts. It switched Chrome windows on me. So this is the quick starts repo, and essentially it's got action sequences, which is the one that we did, which has the full debugging setup in it. It'll be added to all of these soon. Basically, when someone asks us, well, how do I do this? My goal, like my selfish goal, is that whoever answers that question should turn that quick explanation into a quick start that they can just go, just run this command, and you'll see a working version that you can play with, and then you can see exactly how it works, and then you can implement it in your actual application.
Okay,
so I think all kinds of quick start possibilities.
So that begs
every time we get a question.
It begs the question, Jesse, of so if you need, so Quick Start has the code, the kind of basic code for you to run something, where there is an API authentication needed or something like that, where is that clear when you're doing a quick start? Because I would guess that like your call to analytics, say you do the call to analytics as a quick start, that without having your access token, it's not going to function, or right. So there's got to be some guidance to the end user to say, okay, here's where you will need to put in your information in this.
Yeah. So I mean, this is an OpenAI prompt quick start, and in order for you to use it, you actually have to have an API key for use with OpenAI. So there's instructions here on how to add that to your environment, and then when you deploy, it's passed to the actions securely, and then you have that to use in your action code. So each of these quick starts should have its own README, which will explain what the developer needs to do outside of just installing it, right? Because there will undoubtedly be extra steps that you need to do.
Yeah, right. So it's not just a simple thing, right? Usually
it can be. Yeah. But I mean, an example of a simple thing that you wouldn't need to authenticate is if someone wanted to know, how do I develop an app builder app in TypeScript? You know, it's just a couple extra npm packages, a couple, maybe a hook during build to transpile, but really, you know, it should be pretty simple to make a quick start that does that.
That's a great example. I like that. So as we're chatting here, I just wanted to mention, if anyone has questions that is watching, by all means throw it up as a comment, and certainly we'll add it here, get it answered for you the best we can. Yeah, quick starts sound great. So right now, there's no discoverability for quick starts, right? I mean, so it's a feature that's available, but unless you know the URL or whatnot, you're not gonna. Yeah.
I mean, and each quick start eventually will have, you know, a description of how to install and run it. Here's an example, right? Of how to do the QR code. But ideally, we would have this for each. The contribution model is very, very simple. It's just create a new directory with your quick start in it, and send a pull request.
Okay, so anybody that goes to appbuilder-quickstarts will see what's available there today. And then certainly in the Adobe repo, and then they can add. Anybody can add a new one. There's no like gatekeeper where Jesse, you or Patrick need to approve it working or not, right?
Well, we do have to accept the pull request, so we will look at it.
There you go. Right on. Okay.
So there is the Wild West.
Yeah. Okay.
if you want it to be on Adobe App Builder Quick Starts, then we have to look at it.
Yeah. Right on. Good. Okay. So these are ones that we've gone through and we've confirmed that they work. So yeah. So a great question. Have you thought of the capability of having community maintained or even private quick start templates?
This is more more in the area of templates, not necessarily quick starts. Quick starts are meant to be like small pieces that are shared, right? So templates, on the other hand, can be private. There is a registry, there is a whole process there, right? Whereas quick starts, it's really a developer tool to try things before you actually commit to doing something in a certain way. So I don't know that private, like we actually do have the capability of having a private quick start, which is not documented yet, but using, you know, GitHub private key, and there's a whole process that you have to go through if you want to actually do it, but it is possible, and I will document how to do that. But
Yeah,
it's not, it won't end up in this repository. It'll be from your own repository, and you will have to go through a few steps with GitHub to create a token and share that outside of anything that we have.
I think to your earlier point, Jesse, though, if somebody creates a quick start, you know, certainly you have to approve it to be added to the, you know, Adobe GitHub. But if you have your own, and like say you work at a partner and you have a bunch of you know, quick starts, or, you know, kind of examples of integrations that you're specifically doing within your partner team, you might want to, could they do those as quick starts, or what would make
Yep.
sense there?
Yep, absolutely they could. But they would share them privately.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
If you actually need protection, right? You actually need to have your quick start sitting in a private repo. Then there's a couple extra steps that need to happen to allow people to install it, right? But if you just have a repo that you know no one knows about, you can reference it, because the quick start itself is really just a URL, right? If I'm installing, this is Adobe, the organization in GitHub, this is the repository it's coming from, and this is a subdirectory. And within that subdirectory, all we really expect to see is we make sure that there's a app.config.yaml. And that's really the only check that we're doing. That's how we say that this is an app builder app that we can init with.
Right. So as long as that is formed correctly, then it can get it. And honestly, I think if you were a partner working with App Builder, I think this would be a great way to save kind of these like snippets or examples for your team to kind of manage and to leverage if you've got special ways of doing authentication or integration or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so creating these is no different than, I would imagine, creating any kind of app builder code that you, or a project, right? So going from project to quick start, like, is what's the delta there? Is there anything extra that you have to do other than adding it into GitHub, into this folder? And
yeah, it's basically just putting it in the structure and making sure that you don't have any secrets in your code, and that they're all instructions to populate the .env file. So setting that up, and you know, everything else is pretty straightforward.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, never put your env file in GitHub. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have gitignore all over the place to help us with that.
Right on. All right. Thank you, Raphael, for the question. Any other questions? By all means, feel free to drop them in. If not, yeah, anything else you guys wanted to cover today with our App Builder 10.0? Actually, I had a quick question. This is not. So you said it was a breaking release on Here, we'll go back to
I'm
this
still
screen.
sharing.
That's all good. So the breaking release part was that just people needed to update their node versions for compatibility with 18, which is, I mean, we've done that in the past, correct? We've moved node, I mean, we've generally always moved node versions, maybe not as quickly, to your point, Patrick, about going from 14 to kind of 18. But that's kind of a standard thing that we do, right? Ask people to make sure that they're on the latest version of Node. And I guess with this one, we just kind of fallen behind a little bit, to your point of not.
Yeah. This is not going to be the last breaking release, right? Like I said, in April, 22 is coming out, and I would expect every Node version, we'll have to have a release that people will have to upgrade to get to, right?
Right.
But one of the things with committing to doing it within that timeline is becomes more predictable, right? When that's going to happen, right? If people know, like, well, we're trying to do this within 90 days of a release, they can kind of plan that out on our side, especially with so many of our customers being enterprise. They like the predictability, knowing when things are going to change is good for them. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, no. So 90 days is generally what the target is for new node release support.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily a breaking change. A breaking change is when we drop support for Node 16. So adding a new Node version does not mean that things are broken.
Right. It's the dropping the old versions of 14 or 10 or 8.
And we try to do that based on the actual code that we're running. Do we actually require features that aren't available in Node 16? Then that forces our hand, and we have to move forward. But if it's small to maintain, and the window is still open, like maybe it's fallen out of long-term support, but there's no exploits that we're aware of, we might maintain support for a little bit longer, right? We won't necessarily force if we don't have to.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. Totally makes sense. Okay, so I think we're good. Unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we can close our session out a little bit early. And yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and like we mentioned, use the AIO report to get in touch with us via GitHub, and thanks Ron for hosting.
Yep.
Yeah. No, actually, I wanted to add, sorry, Jesse, that AIO report I didn't realize about. So thank you for that reminder. The AIO report -B for bug and -F for feature. I will definitely use that now that I know that it goes directly to you. All righty. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
An awesome day, and we look forward to having the dev feature for debugging available in the future here, released. And very cool stuff. Thanks for sharing your expertise and knowledge.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye, guys.